Welcome back to The Remote Life. My name is Han Talbot, also known as Han Meets World, and today we'll be chatting with Dani Leigh. Based in Spain, Dani is the blogger behind Travelling Jezebel that inspires others to explore the lesser-known areas of the world. She has also recently launched a new website dedicated to anti-MLM content called Not Your Boss Babe. In this episode, we talk about finding work as a remote lifer, why Valencia should be on the remote lifer list, and alternatives to MLM schemes. So grab a coffee, a tea, or something stronger, and let's get started. So Dani, thank you so much for being on the Remote Life podcast. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. It's only my second podcast that I've ever done, so I'm really scared.
You're going to do amazing. So to dive straight in, tell us a bit about your story and why you decided to start slow traveling.
So I didn't intentionally start slow traveling. I wasn't aware of the term. I didn't do it kind of for the environment or over tourism or anything like that. I just knew that I wanted to travel all the way through even high school. So then as soon as I finished uni, I went on a trip with some friends, but it was 4 weeks in Thailand. It was nothing really. So then we came back and none of my other friends wanted to travel or they couldn't travel because they didn't have enough money saved and stuff. So I was just like, okay, I've got to do this on my own then, I guess. So I went to Bali, and then after a month I flew to Cambodia. And then ended up spending a year there. That wasn't planned. I just fell in love with it and got a job in a hostel and stayed there for a year. And then I met all of these other backpackers that were doing the same thing, just moving around from hostel to hostel and kind of volunteering and living and traveling that way. So that's what introduced me to the fact that you could do it long term and you didn't necessarily need like a ton of money in the bank and stuff like that. So that's what I've done for before the pandemic, I think. Probably about 5 years. That's what I was doing, kind of living in one place for a few months, but volunteering in hostels and stuff, and then moving on a little bit. So yeah, and then obviously the pandemic changed everything, but yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so one question that people asked me on Twitter was, do you have any kind of specific, I mean, obviously you joined the dots kind of by working while you were traveling, but like obviously in the pandemic, for example, did you already have some clients in the background, or like was that something that you started doing because of the pandemic?
I was always doing a little bit of freelance work. I wasn't properly active with it, but I would do like bits here and there. And then I was just building the blog. I actually monetized that in January 2020, so which was obviously a terrible time for travel blogging, but luckily mine didn't take too much of a hit with traffic because I had some other articles on different topics. So I was making a little bit of money with that, not a lot, but enough to survive. Then I wasn't paying rent for some of it because I lived with my parents for a few months. So that allowed me to obviously just focus on the blog as well. So yeah, I'm still in that phase where I'm still doing a tiny little bit of freelance work, but for the most part, I'm just working on the blog and trying to grow that. And again, I'm not making enough money. I'm not saving any money or anything, but I'm making just enough kind of thing.
No, that's cool. So talk to us a little bit more about Jezebel Travels. Like, what's the kind of, is there a mission? Do you have an aim? Like, what kind of stuff do you tend to write about?
So I write about European travel, and specifically more like off the beaten path places in Europe mainly. So I have a lot of stuff on like the Balkans, Eastern Europe, with kind of a focus on like food and wine and stuff like that. I'm not an adventure traveler. I don't do like extreme sports or anything like that. And then I also started, so in the pandemic, I pivoted a bit to anti-MLM content, multi-level marketing, pyramid schemes, stuff like that. So I started actually writing about that on the travel blog, which doesn't really go, like the two topics don't really go together, obviously. But that picked up a ton of traffic. That was the majority of my traffic during the pandemic. So then recently, at the start of December, I created a new site, which is about just that. It's about anti-MLM, kind of warning people about the dangers of network marketing and comparing them to pyramid schemes and stuff. So I've separated the two sites. So I'm going to have just one travel and then one about that.
Yeah, I definitely got a few more DMs about that sort of business building, let's call it that, where kind of people were trying to pivot a lot in the pandemic. What would you advise people to go for instead, like on the affiliate travel side of things? Or do you have any advice on that kind of thing, like what they really could go for?
Do you mean instead of joining one of these MLM companies?
Yeah, so like I know, again, I can't speak from experience. I'm sure there are some people who have potentially made some money on it, but I know there's a lot of, well, I'll let people go read your blogs and bits and pieces on it. But I know that also there are other ways that you can focus on booking and getting a little bit of money from that. So what from an affiliate side of things? So are there any potential sites that you use for affiliate travels kind of thing?
I just think if the people that have the skills to make it in that world, so say they're good at social media, they're good at blogging and all of that stuff, I think that they should just channel it into regular affiliate marketing as opposed to joining one of these kind of tiered companies where the commission structure is floating up to the top. So yeah, I'm only just getting into affiliate marketing. Probably about 5-6 months ago, I actually started taking it seriously. So I'm just learning myself. But yeah, obviously as a travel blogger, so I'm an affiliate with booking.com, for example, Hostel World. Like I use travel payouts, which is like a directory of all of these travel affiliate sites. So yeah, I'm partnered with them. But whatever niche, I mean, I know a lot of people, for example, that join these MLMs are into beauty and fashion and skincare and health and stuff. And I think that if you've got the skills on social media and you want to create a blog, then there's an affiliate for everything, isn't there? So I think that they could partner with whoever they wanted and then make commission that way. But obviously it's not easy, I think, is the biggest misconception.
Right.
I've been trying so hard with affiliate marketing for 6 months and I'm making a little bit of money, but not even enough to pay my rent right now. So yeah, I think it's quite difficult to to get going with it.
That makes total sense. I was going to ask though, so have you tried, because I know that some companies, obviously, yes, as you said, like there are a lot of companies now that do affiliates. Have you tried at all asking for affiliates, even though it might not have been obvious?
I did once and they gave me a link and then I didn't make any sales.
Okay.
So
I wondered. So what would your kind of like top, I suppose, piece of advice be for trying to then channel, as someone who's only been doing it for, as you said, 6 months? Is there anything that you would advise specifically about doing affiliate marketing and like what's been one of your biggest learnings?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that when I first started, I was literally just putting affiliate links. Like every article that I had, I would think, okay, if I'm talking about train travel, I can put a link to a train booking company, whatever. And that's all great, but they were all very like low ticket sales. So sure, someone might make a booking, but I'm going to make 50 cents. So that's not really a quick way to make money. And also I was just putting them in existing articles. So if I'm writing about things to do in Valencia, maybe people are not in that place where they're going to book a train or something. They're just looking for things to do, right? They're already there. So I think what I personally have learned is that I will tailor the articles now specifically to that. So the best hotels in whatever, and also try and pick higher ticket affiliate sales, because I listened to Leanne's talk at Traverse and she was saying it's so much easier to sell one thing and get kind of, I don't know, 10 or 20 pounds commission than try and sell 100 things and get the same amount of commission, which I think is, like Amazon specifically, their commission rates are horrible. So far this month, I've sold 3 things on Amazon and I've made 47p. So I'm like, whereas then I sold not sold, but someone joined up to SiteGround web hosting through my link and I made £30 just on that one sale. So that was so much easier to get than obviously the three Amazon sales. So
I'm clapping again. Yay. Hey, a sale is a sale. Just got to keep that going. Also, shout out to Leanne from Passive Income Superstars. She is wonderful. And yeah, 100% go check out her courses on passive income. Side note. Let's bring it back to kind of more the travel side of things. That's got very techie very quickly. Why Valencia? Why should others consider Valencia as their kind of slow travel destination?
So it was a bit of an accident. Basically, during the pandemic, my parents actually moved to a little town called Oliva. It's like about an hour away from Valencia. So last year in 2020, at the end of 2020, I came over here in November to stay with them. And I was going to stay for maybe 2 months or something like that. My boyfriend had gone home to Ireland to his parents, so I came to Spain to mine. And then the plan was to hopefully just keep traveling in 2021, which obviously that didn't happen. And then I was mindful as well about the fact that because Brexit came into effect, so from January, I had 90 days in the Schengen zone. So I was like, oh my God, I have to get residency somewhere. And then we just kind of thought, okay, sod it. Like, let's just choose Valencia and stay there for a year. And then if we hate it, we'll go somewhere else. So we did. We literally I'd never even been. We just went to look at apartments one day, saw one and we liked it and we picked it. And we couldn't even we spent the night in Valencia, but it was lockdown. So there was a curfew of 8 p.m. Bars, restaurants weren't open. So we didn't actually see any of it at all. But then moved here in June and fell in love with it. And I think it's amazing. I think my estate agent told me when he was showing us around, he said that it's got the bohemian kind of crazy fun side that Barcelona's got. But then it's also, if you're in business or if you just like that city lifestyle, it's got all of that similar to Madrid. He said for him, it's in the middle of the two, but really cheap compared to those places. So I think it's got everything, it's got a beach, it's got a really quirky kind of cool little nightlife scene. There's a lot of digital nomads here, which is really good, obviously. So yeah.
No, I really liked your suggestion for using the Santander work cafe. That was such a good shout. But one of my favorite things when I was walking through the town was seeing like all the kind of business people stood outside a coffee shop having their like little morning coffees. So at like I think I walked past them at like 8:30 in the morning, and there was a bunch of them there. Walked back again because I was only allowed like 2 hours in the work cafe, and it was still all there having morning coffee. And I was like, yes, this is like a bit of the like city life, but also coupled with that kind of relaxed Spanish vibe. But like, yeah, it was amazing. So what did your kind of typical work week look like for you then?
So sometimes I will go to the Santander cafe. For the most part, I just work from home. So yeah, I've just got a little kind of office set up in the living room that my boyfriend is currently taking over. But yeah, so I just work. I'm just trying to write as many articles as possible right now, especially because I've started my second site. So I'm really trying to get as much content on that as possible. So I try and do kind of 3 articles for the travel blog and maybe 2 articles for the other one per week. If I can do more, then I'll do more. But that's mainly what I'm doing. And then going back and changing old posts, like updating them, tweaking them to make them better and stuff like that. So that's pretty much it. I don't really focus a lot on kind of Pinterest and social media and stuff. I just do more SEO. So obviously like making them nice for Google.
No, SEO and user experience seem to be 2 huge things for people to look at for this year, for sure. So do you spend a lot of time kind of, you mentioned there were digital nomads in Valencia. Do you spend a lot of time like kind of with the community or networking?
So there are, I have done so. So I haven't been to this thing in a while, but basically I think it's every other Thursday, there's a meetup for specifically digital nomads, and they'll just meet in a bar. It's a casual kind of drinks setting, but that's really cool. And then there are other so Telegram's really big here. I don't know if people use that in England that much, but there are tons of Telegram groups about this. So for example, I'm in one called Valencia Content Creators, and I've met with them a couple of times. So we'll meet kind of in the park or in a bar or whatever, and just, it's all different kinds of content creators, so we can brainstorm. So like I can help people with a bit of SEO or blog post writing, and then there are everything. There are people that do branding, there are people that do video, music, podcasts, all of that stuff. So it's kind of a nice, I think they meet every 2 weeks, but it only just started before Christmas, so it's just getting going. But yeah, there are tons of opportunities to meet people like that.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. It sounds like a really nice little network. And of course, it's Spain. So of course, everyone meets at the bar or in the park. That sounds right.
Just when I was telling you then, I was like, okay, this one meets in a bar. Like, oh, so does this one. Like,
but it's not like bar like we traditionally know bars. It's like such a different connotation, I feel, when you go to like Spain for these kind of things. Look at me justifying that. So why should other people choose Valencia as their destination, do you think?
I think, first of all, it's super affordable. Really, if like rent and living expenses and stuff for my apartment, it's right in the tourist centre. It's in El Carmen, so it's like the kind of most expensive neighbourhood. And it's a quite big apartment, and we both pay €650 a month. So it's a lot cheaper than, I'm from Manchester, for example, it's a lot cheaper than there. And like eating out and drinking is super cheap, so that's good. And then again, there are lots and lots of international people. There are lots of co-working spaces, but not too much that it doesn't still feel Spanish. I think that's what I like about it. There's not actually that many tourists that come here and not that many expats, but there are definitely enough that you've always got people that kind of speak your language or people that you can ask for help and meet up and network with. So yeah, I think I think it's going to blow up in the next few years. And I think now is probably the time to come here because it is in that kind of transition phase, I feel like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm making that up, but
no, do you know what? I get you. When I arrived, I was like, why is this not talked about more? Like, even just spending a week there, I was like, yeah, this has this kind of hint of like, this is not talked about enough, but I can completely get your point of like, I could almost see it starting to become more of a thing, especially like as more like people like yourself start slow traveling and actually using it as a base. So no, I completely get it. I completely agree. So is there anything that you think people should know before they start remote working, slow traveling, or anything that you wish you had known maybe before you took the first step, apart from would have loved to have known about the pandemic?
I think it's a bit different because I was just doing the volunteering thing, and then I was able to focus on blogging and stuff without that pressure of necessarily needing to make money. It wasn't like, because obviously my living expenses were kind of covered doing those things. So I was able to just focus on it that way. I think a lot of people will just start traveling and they're not making as much money as they thought they would, and then they have to go home like sooner than they thought they would. So I think if you can, I do recommend volunteering. I know it's not for everyone. Aside from that, I think you also just have to be disciplined with yourself as well. Because, for example, if I'm staying in hostels, especially like party hostels, backpacker hostels, I'm not going to wake up realistically at 9 a.m. and start getting a full day of workings. And I think that a lot of people are like, oh, I can just travel and do all of this stuff and then still get all of the work done. And it doesn't happen. Like, you have to treat it like a real job, which is a benefit of slow travel as well, because you can actually find a nice little cafe that you like to work in and you can get settled and you can do all of your stuff and then still go and explore the place, and you're not constantly having to source out new places all the time. So yeah, just treat it like a real job, like you would at home, because it is, I guess.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. If you don't mind me asking, did you do a degree?
Yeah.
So, do you find that you use your degree now?
No, I did English literature with creative writing. So obviously I do write. So yeah. But at the same time, has it really helped me? I don't know. I don't really use a lot of the things that they taught us and stuff. So I'm not sure that it helped me.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. So I did a languages degree. And while everyone's like, oh, so you learned the language? I'm like, yeah, but it was a very expensive language like course, you know?
Yeah.
But there are definitely elements from it that I took away from it somehow. But I always find that interesting too, because obviously, especially with the internet nowadays, there is so much that you can learn online for obviously way cheaper than when I went to university. Was there anything, did you do any courses at all before or like during the pandemic, or like throughout your general slow travel journey?
Yeah, I've done a couple of like SEO courses and stuff like that, and just read a ton of the Make Traffic Happen ebooks I got. So I've read all. Yeah, I know, they're amazing. So yeah, I've done a few different courses like that. I also did the travel blog Prosperity by Jessie Fester. It's like a membership program, so I was a member of that for a couple of months. So yeah, I feel like those things have definitely helped me. But obviously it's quite difficult to know. There's so many out there, aren't there? So it's difficult to know which ones are the best ones. So I tend to buy the courses of people who I already read their blog, or maybe I've met them in person and I know that they're actually successful. I know what they're talking about, as opposed to like random people who are selling these things online. So yeah, definitely courses help.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. When you're creating your content, especially obviously, like as you said, you didn't start doing anti-MLM content. Do you kind of find your creative process comes from the questions you're asking, or is that what's your general process?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know. I think with travel, I try and write about, like, I'll go to a place and I try and hone in on the food and kind of day trips from that place that people might not necessarily know about. So I try and find things to write about that are not just like top 10 things to do in this city. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but I personally find them quite difficult to write. I don't really enjoy writing those articles. And then with the MLM stuff, yeah, I guess I'm writing them for people who know nothing about this industry. So I'm kind of thinking, right, what questions do they have? And they might be asking, is this company a pyramid scheme? Can I make money with this company? Is it worth joining this company and paying the sign-up fee? So I'm kind of thinking what questions they would have as someone that knows nothing about the industry. I don't know if I answered that properly. I'm not sure.
I think everybody's process is different. I think I think of like, no offense to people who write the top 10 things to do, but I feel like And for me personally, that's sort of been there, done that. And I feel and like if they're up, great. And if you're, like you said, starting out, great. But I'm just very curious to kind of know people's general process now, because of course, like as you said, I mean, anti-MLM, I feel like that's such a, like not everyone writes about that kind of thing. So therefore I'm kind of now more curious because of where I'm at personally in my like travel industry content journey.
Yeah.
And especially with something like slow travel, which is not as like say normal. I'm just very generally curious to find out what people do. And I suppose for somebody who is starting their own content like site now, I think that is a good thing to think about now. It's because you've got to kind of get past everything that's now been built up on the internet over the last few years.
I think as well with travel, like what I've learned over the last few years is writing more articles about one place. Like, first of all, it's good for SEO because it's that topical authority, but also it's good for the reader, obviously. So if you're in Valencia, for example, I would write about the things to do, the best places to eat, the best places to get tapas, the best day trips, as opposed to just writing one. And then, because what I used to do when I started out, because I was traveling to lots of different places, so I would just write a guide to each place, which I spent like 2-3 days there. I wasn't really in a position to be writing a guide to that place, but I did. And then those articles never ranked, obviously, because they just weren't that good, because I didn't really know what I was talking about. So I think that, the more articles that you can write about one particular place, it's better for you. And then it's also better for the reader. And then it's better for your traffic. And so if someone is starting a travel site, I would definitely recommend that, I think, just for less places, but more content.
Okay. So obviously you've been to a couple of destinations as well on your slow travel journey. What would your top 3 be for people?
Poland. I think Poland is amazing. I spent quite a lot of time there. Krakow, obviously, is a magical city, but Poland in general, there are so many places that people just have never heard of, and it's super easy to travel there. The infrastructure is amazing. It's cheap, the food's good, the people are nice, it's beautiful. Yeah, cannot recommend Poland enough.
I love you said that, because I did Krakow 3 years ago now, and I did a whole post on it because I was like, wow, you would never know this. So I'm so glad you said that. I'm like, oh, too.
Yeah, it's magical, isn't it? As soon as I got there, it's just like, oh my god, this place is amazing.
And you can set up your laptop. It's super easy to do. Yeah. Plus the skiing, but yeah.
I'm not a winter sports person, so it's not for me. But yes, you can. If you want to get a bit more off the beaten path, I loved Albania. I really, really fell in love with Albania. It's my favorite country in the world. It's amazing. The people are just incredible. Like, you can't walk down the street without somebody, especially in the smaller villages, you cannot go anywhere without somebody like asking where you're from, if you need any help, if you need directions, if you want to come and meet their grandma and like drink some coffee with them. Like, it's incredible. Yeah. And the landscape's amazing as well. There are gorgeous beaches, mountains, lakes. It's phenomenal. It's not the best place to work remotely, I think. It's not. The infrastructure is terrible, and it's just, it's still developing, definitely. But it's an amazing country. And I've got to say Valencia. I know it's boring because we've been talking about it all the time, but I think Valencia is amazing. I think it's a really cool city.
Yeah. So, and we've already covered a bunch of points on that already. But I love those ideas. I think, isn't Albania also, it's not part of the Schengen area?
Yeah, that's right.
So even if you want to like spend a couple of weeks between maybe going to somewhere, I don't know, kind of over that way, then you've still kind of got options. That's very interesting. I like those. I like that because it's different. Again, going for the ones that are not, well, we'll see where they're at in a few years. We'll see. Cool. Okay. What is one piece of advice you would give for finding remote work?
I was thinking about this. I really do have imposter syndrome. I feel like I'm the worst person to give all of this advice. But what I would say is that when I do freelance work and stuff, I'm on all of the websites like Fiverr, Upwork, Freelancer, all of that. And I don't know how much luck other people have. I personally have found work with those sites, but I find it quite difficult, especially to get well-paid work. So what I would tell people is don't neglect social media. Like, for example, for me, I've had people that I don't know just reach out to me on Twitter because they've seen my content, they like it, and they've asked, do I want to, would I post an article on my website for them, or do I want to write something for them on their website? And I think really, I know that a lot of Pinterest kind of virtual assistants find their clients on Facebook. And again, on Twitter, I see a lot of SEOs and people that buy and sell websites doing all of their business on Twitter. And they often talk about how they don't do any of it on these sites that are made specifically for that. So yeah, I think what I would say is kind of figure out where your clients are and then really make yourself known on that particular social media platform. Because it might not be Twitter, it might be Facebook, it could be Instagram. I know Instagram's obviously great for people that are more into the influencer side of things. So yeah, that's what I would say. I think, like that age-old thing, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I think if you do make connections with people that are in your field and passionate, then even if they don't need any work doing, they're going to still recommend you to other people if they come across opportunities that would suit you. So, okay.
How do you build your relationships? Or is there anything specifically that you do to maintain your relationships with clients, people online?
Just interacting again. So I think a lot of people on Twitter specifically, a lot of people make that mistake of literally just tweeting into the abyss and then not interacting with anyone else. And I find that people are so friendly on Twitter. Like, all you have to do is reply to someone's tweet, and it's not forced. I mean, I'll only reply to something if it's genuinely interesting. And then people are just so eager to just like follow you back and interact with you and be like friends with you and stuff. And I just think it's just nice. I don't know. I just make a point of interacting if they post something that resonates with me or whatever, rather than just tweeting out my own things all the time and just hoping that someone like responds.
And one final question, just for the audio here. How do you keep up your general momentum and kind of morale from day to day?
I feel like I get burnout quite easily because I work every day. I don't know if you're the same, because I enjoy what I do so much. That's also how I relax. It's not just how I make money, it's what I like to do. So I'm constantly doing something. But I feel like what helps me is that if I'm not kind of in a mood to be writing, if I don't feel particularly creative or whatever, then I'll just do something else. Like I might do keyword research, or I might do some Pinterest, or just mess with the site in some way, or emails or whatever. I try not to force myself to write content if it's not coming. I'll just try and do something else.
No, yeah. I'm similar. Sometimes I think especially if you kind of have grown up with social media, sometimes it is just a case of like, you already enjoy being on the space, so therefore you spend some time on the space. But I know for me personally, I've definitely enjoyed having an accountability partner for the last year and a bit from that kind of...
I've never done that. How is it?
Honestly, well, so shout out to Tara, who was in series 1 as well. We've really enjoyed it because it's then kept us kind of accountable for kind of our bigger goals and things like that. And it's just nice having kind of being in contact with someone specifically who is kind of on that same sort of journey and whatnot. And I've personally really enjoyed it because I know I need someone who is just going to like listen, but also tell me at the same time, like, come on, like, you know that you're like BSing yourself right now, like just get on with it. But no, I think that helps for me definitely from keeping myself kind of accountable and like stopping me. You know, when like you're trying to work on a goal and your brain is kind of like, oh no, we're fine, like let's procrastinate, and you're kind of just need someone to be like a mirror.
yeah, makes total sense.
But no, Dani, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for being on The Remote Life.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's super fun. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Remote Life. And thank you, Dani, for your awesome insights. You can find links to her website and socials below. Tag Dani at Jezebel Travels and myself, Han, at Han Meets World, and let us know your dream job. You can also find the podcast on Instagram at The Remote Life Podcast. Thank you so much again for listening, and we can't wait to remote work with you again soon.